Hey everybody, Dave Hagan here. Today I want to talk about trust-based success. What is that, you ask? We'll tell you today on the Financial Wellness Podcast.
Welcome to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to the financial success. Here is your host, financial problem solver and talk show host, Dave Hagan.
Hey, thank you and welcome everyone to the Financial Wellness Podcast. This is David Hagan coming to you from beautiful downtown Van Nuys. Where is that, you ask? It's just about 30 miles outside of Los Angeles. And as I say all the time, kind of near Hollywood. So today I want to talk about trust-based success. And I've got someone with me on the phone here today. I've got Mark Given. Now let me tell you a little bit about Mark. Mark has spent the last 20 years as a keynote speaker and teacher and author. And prior to that, he was a CEO of a multi-state retail sales and rental company with 47 locations. Over this period of time, he's spoken at more than 1,200 events or programs on his trust-based philosophy system, talking about leadership, sales, personal and business success, customer service, networking, and negotiations. Mark's also a prolific author. He's written 7 books, including the Amazon #1 bestseller, Finding My Way, Ernie's Journey. He's also the author of the best-selling Trust-Based Philosophy book series, and he's written articles for Online Money, Inc. Mark lives in North Carolina, and his wife of 41 years have 5 kids, 4 of whom are Eagle Scouts. So this is an underachieving group back there. Mark and I met at a speaking seminar a number of years ago, and we've just kind of stayed in touch. Most recently, I saw this blog that Mark did about the 10 things that he'd like to have in a perfect day. We talked about this in a podcast just a few weeks ago. Go back and check it out, everyone. But this led him to being on the show today. Now, normally I don't like to do interviews over the telephone. I like to have people live in the studio. But Mark's travel schedule didn't permit him to be in Los Angeles really this whole year. He's so busy. So we decided to do it over the phone because there's just too much good information here to share. So, Mark, welcome to the Financial Wellness Podcast.
Hey, David, I'm so glad. I'm glad to be here with you. It's good to hear your voice.
I'd say welcome to LA. You're getting all the good parts, the podcast and some of the other stuff without any of the traffic.
Yeah, amen to that. But I was just in D.C. this week.
So let's talk about that for a minute. I heard that you were in D.C. and doing some talking and teaching. How did that go?
It went great. It's a very large event right in downtown D.C. at the Hilton, and I was speaking on trust-based success. It's such an important topic now because the world needs trust in so many different areas. In every profession and every organization, we're trying to build and maintain, massage, nurture, and make sure that we're trusted. So I get called to come and speak on building trust in leadership, trust in selling, trust in personal success. And I have a new book coming out on trust-based networking. So now I have companies, organizations, associations, schools, universities that call and have me come and speak on this important topic of trust.
Ooh, I like that. We'll talk about that networking here in just a few minutes. But what I want to talk about right now is your book, one of your recent books, Trust-Based Success, because I think that relates to, financial wellness, personal finance, and personal financial success. And like I told you, I read your book. I've read all of your books, and I love your stuff. But a couple of things jumped out at me as I was reading the book. The first was you have amazing endorsements. Joe Theismann, NFL quarterback and a well-known motivational speaker, says if you're ready to achieve more success and happiness, read and live the strategies in this brilliant book by my friend Mark Given. What a great endorsement, huh?
Yeah. I've been very blessed. My books actually have been endorsed by Joe and Brian Tracy and Bob Berg and Jack Canfield and some other people who have, just like you, in some way or another, they found me, or a friend of a friend gave them one of my books and they read it, and they sent me these nice endorsements. And so, I'm dumbfounded by it, because I don't know that, it's wonderful, and I must be worthy of them, or they wouldn't have sent them, but I almost feel unworthy of them, because these are some people I just have tremendous respect for. So if they say it, I couldn't be more honored that they would say it.
Sure. So. I think it goes to the truth of the message and the carrier of the message as well. But, these are heavy-duty folks. You mentioned Jack Canfield, co-creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul. He's a thought leader. So to have him, endorsing and saying good things about your book is incredible. Kevin Eastman, who was executive vice president of basketball operations for the Clippers, another important person in Los Angeles, especially, so saying good things about your book. But perhaps the best endorsement, the cherry on the sundae, if you will, at least from my perspective, Brian Tracy. Goodness gracious, Brian Tracy is saying good things about your book, and he's a giant in the speaking industry. I think of him as on par with Zig Ziglar or Earl Nightingale or some of these other people. How did you arrange that?
Well, the interesting thing is you and I met in Los Angeles at a speaking event.
And he was there, yeah.
Yeah, sponsored by James Malinchek, who was on the ABC Secret Millionaire show. James is actually my coach. I hired him as a coach, and the reality of it is James has connections with many of these people, and he's really the catalyst that led my books to most of these people. So he's the kind. It's interesting how life works, because when you build trust, my topic, with people, and they are also trusted. When you recommend to somebody that trusts you, they'll take a look. It's really the same thing in your financial world, that we need to make good financial decisions to build a foundation and a life that we want. And a lot of those good decisions can come from people that we trust. And, we don't want to be sold. We need to be able to depend on people we trust. So much of this is a result of the hard work that I've tried to put in, but it's because somebody knew somebody who said, hey, take a look at this. And what a great endorsement. Can't get any better endorsement than that for somebody to say he does good work.
Yeah, no, exactly. I remember when I was sitting there in LA at this event, and Brian Tracy takes the stage. I go, whoa, there's Brian Tracy. That is really cool. That's a giant in certain fields of thought. That's incredible. And he talked for a while, and then he says, I gotta go get on a plane. I have an arrangement with the airline. When they're ready to go, I'm there.
Yeah.
Right. And he left early and walked out, and we didn't have a chance to go up and shake his hand, but I thought that was really cool. Another thing that struck me about your book is it's extremely accessible. It's only like 111 pages, and some of the pages are worksheets, and some of the pages have things listed on them that you want people to think about, but you're able to pull the information out of the book so easily. It's readily accessible. Was that one of the goals?
Actually, when I wrote this whole trust-based philosophy series on trust-based leadership, trust-based selling, trust-based success, and now trust-based networking, I really intended these to be more like a few books that I had read over the years that I was most impressed by and very influenced by, like The 1 Minute Manager. Not a deep 300-page, 250-page book, but it had very powerful principles and a very concise format. There's a number of good authors. Even Seth Godin, who's a marketing genius, writes in sound bites, right? Mm-hmm. So I decided to write these books more in sound bites. So I call them proven ways. Other people call them chapters. And so, like the Trust-Based Success book has 25 proven ways. Most of these proven ways that I write about are only a few pages each, but then they're powerful questions at the end of each proven way, because I'm trying to teach a principle. I'm trying to impress a principle. And then what's more important to me is, David, how are you going to apply it in your life? This isn't about me. This is about you and what you can do with it. And so that's the whole format of each of these books. Here's the principle. Here's what I believe is true. Here's what I've seen over the course of my life and my studies and my experience. And I don't need to write a 30-page chapter to impress that principle. I can do it in 2 pages and then ask you a good question and allow you to apply it to yourself. So I think probably more than anything, that's the reason that these books have been successful for me, because they're simple reads, but they are powerful enough to apply them to yourself. It's not about me. It's about the reader.
Yeah. I mean, I've started so many books, well-intentioned, and they go on and on and on and on about the 5th example. You just close the book and say, well, I'm going to bed. It just put me to sleep. So, if it's short and pithy and straight to the point, I've always liked that. And it also seems to me that you go about this task from the perspective of a teacher. And I think that that's important too.
Well, obviously I speak, and I'm fortunate enough and blessed to be out speaking somewhere every week. And this week was DC. The week before that, I was down in Florida and then Montana. I mean, I get to go everywhere. But the real value of it is when I'm out, I'm not really just a motivational speaker. Certainly I motivate, but I'm there to teach, to help people understand that the great aim of education isn't really knowledge, it's action. And that's what I'm trying to do, which is to create action, or to at least be a seed, a catalyst for people to begin to take action. Something new to help improve themselves, their circumstances, and make their lives and their families and their communities better.
Well, and it seems to me when you're gone, you're still of value to the community because you're leaving some seeds behind, whether it's your books or whether it's just, some gem that someone who was listening wrote down on a little piece of paper and they think about over the next couple days. And hopefully some of those seeds, grow up and become full-fledged plants or thoughts, or motivate people to do something in their life that really bears fruit. I mean, that's got to be terribly exciting for you to be able to do that and leave those things behind.
It is fun. While you're on that, since we're really talking about the Trust-Based Success book, the very last proven way in the book, the Proven Way 25, is the 4 steps of succeeding at anything. And the reality of that is
I got the book here. Let me get there. Let me get to number. Yeah. It's 25? 25?
Yeah, Proven Way number 25. It's the 4 steps to succeeding at anything. And
gotcha. I see it. Okay. And by the way, for the listeners, these books are available at markgiven.com. Okay, I'm at Proven Way 25. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the principle, this is decades of my life that it's not really that difficult to move towards the things that you want to happen most in your life. The first step is actually deciding what you want, because most people they struggle getting by number 1. They just cannot decide what they want. So you decide what you want, you write it down, you begin a focus of what do I really want? The why, finding my why. Ernie's Journey, A Tale for Seekers, is really about not leaving this world with regrets. That was the one that was an Amazon #1 bestseller.
Right.
And the reality of it is, we just struggle trying to get past number 1, decide what we want. Once you decide what you want, then you move to number 2, which is you create some kind of plan. How do I get started? We don't even have to know what's it going to look like at the end, although we should have some idea of where we want to be, a vision of where we want to be. But once we decide what we want and an idea of what we're really trying to accomplish, what's the first step? What's the plan for the first thing we can do, and so that we can get rolling? And then number 3 then is, once you've decided, number 1, once you've created some kind of plan, number 2, then number 3 is we estimate the cost, because it's always going to cost in time or money or both. Every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else. That's the same thing in the focus of your world and your listeners' world, which is finance. Every time you decide to invest in something, you're saying yes to that. You're saying no to other things too. So you better be willing to make sure that you've done enough searching internally to know it's the right thing. This is what I want. This is the decision I'm going to make to begin. And then you're going to estimate the cost. Number 4 then is to commit to it. Once you've made all those other steps, the other 3 steps, you just commit to it, because there are always people out there, David, that with good intentions, that will try to steal your dreams or take away what it is you think that you deserve in life. And you do deserve. We all deserve to have happiness and success and joy. And there are good people out there that will say, oh, no, that's impossible. Why do you believe you could do that? So number 1, decide, write it down. Number 2 is create some kind of plan to begin. Get started. Take action. Number 3 is then to estimate what's it going to cost me. And if you're willing to pay that price, then number 4 is don't let anybody take it away from you. Be committed to it. And that means even when we get in the dip, when things aren't looking good, it's amazing how sometimes things can go south, but it's just temporary. And then we can push our way through to success.
Yeah.
So
So
it's really not complicated. It's just a 4-step process.
Yeah. It's so interesting. When I turn to this Proven Way 25 in the book, I see that I highlighted it all in yellow, and one of the reasons is because these are some of the things that we've talked about over the last year and a half on TFWP. That's the Financial Wellness Podcast.
Sure. Absolutely.
And some of this is just basic stuff, but we present it in different ways, slightly different formats, because it'll resonate with different people in different ways. And that's why I like the book. I mean, it's talking about success in general, but it directly relates to financial success. And it's not rocket science, but you got to keep saying it and reformulating and saying it in different ways until those seeds all become planted in people, right? It takes a different presentation for lots of different people. And then the more we do it, the more this information gets out there and the more people can have financial success in their lives,
Well, that's right. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to have challenges, and that's part of life. If we're not making any mistakes, we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So the reality of it is, we just don't want people. I certainly don't want to see people steal the dreams of your listeners. For me, it's with my wife and I having 5 children. We meant to have those 5 children. All we ever wanted was for them to be happy and healthy and have lives that were fulfilling and complete, and that they find the happiness, success, and joy that they're seeking. And these 4 principles are the principles I've tried to teach my children our whole life, that because they're not complicated.
Right.
We try to overcomplicate things, and we don't have to. Financial success, financial wellness is the same way. We just need to have good habits, make good decisions, and stay with it. And
right.
Don't let, because our brain doesn't know the difference between a good habit and a bad habit. So we got to have good habits and press forward on those good habits.
Yeah, I remember reading that in your book. And we've said this over and over. It's simple, but so many times it's the simple things that are the most powerful things. And that's why I like your book. That's why I think it's powerful. I think that's cool. Something else I liked in chapter 19, you talked about working on your life as opposed to working in your life. And we've talked about that on the podcast. And, that seems like to me a really important principle as well.
Yeah, that's interesting that you would say that. What I find in my perspective and just watching people, and I'm lucky enough to see tens of thousands of people every year as I travel and speak, and I take the time to come in early, and I try to get to know people, even though I don't get to spend a lot of time with them. And what I find is that what people are really seeking and where they lack is because we get so caught up in working in the day-to-day of our life that we don't take the time to work on our life. And of course, you've read the book, but what that really means is that means we have to read. It means we have to ponder. It means things that get scheduled get done. So we have to be more focused and have some systems so that we're not always just working on all the things, trying to put out all the fires and deal with all of the activities that have to take place during the day, but we actually take time to work on our life, our mental health, our physical health, our social health, so that we can have a complete life. We can actually accomplish the things that we are here for, because we're all here for a reason. So, we're here to get to be the best we can be, and we cannot be the best. We cannot become our best if all we ever do is work in dealing with, trying to overcome the challenges. We have to keep improving ourselves, and that's what working on our life is all about. And it's just a little bit of time every day, scattered throughout the day, so that we can have mental peace of mind, physical, health, social health, so that we're interacting properly in relationships and in the world. And if we do that, if we work on our life, we'll have a much better life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a lot of this relates back very particularly to financial success, right?
Oh, that's correct, David. Actually, I as I travel and speak to people, and we talk about money from time to time, although that's not my key topic, because I want to be well-rounded and as we talk about trust. But as it relates to financial wellness and your topic with your listeners, we really, when we're out working in the workplace, we should be maximizing and make as much money as we can in an honest and ethical way, and make as much as we can. If we make more than we need, we can always invest it for others, or we can donate it or give it away, or there's people that can use an abundance. So financial wellness gives us the opportunity to serve, and by using trust in our work and our life, by the opportunity for us to make money and to build financial wellness, it just makes our lives better, but it also makes other lives better also. And a very important part of building trust in ourselves and in the world.
Yeah, that's a very big and broad thought. I agree with you wholeheartedly. In your book, you talk about the 4 stages of trust. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure, I can do that in Cliff Notes. So
sure.
Really, I've spent my life studying trust, but what was interesting is many of the books that I've read on trust were just on the concept of trust. We all understand we need to be trusted, and we want to be associated with people we can trust. But the reality of it is that if you look deeper, you'll find that there are really four facets of trust. And the first facet of trust is what I call the grand opening. We're all taught in life. We were all taught that you only have one opportunity to make a first impression. Well, that's been studied. Harvard studied it, NYU studied it, other universities have studied it. What has the science behind this grand opening now is, before we even have an opportunity to speak, when people see us for the first time, they are forming an opinion of us based on competence or care. Are we a good person? Are we a smart person? And their brain lights up. They form that opinion in 50 milliseconds or less. And so it is critically important in our lives to present ourselves our best all the time. So when I'm out there teaching the first facet of trust, I talk about this first impression, that before we even get to speak, people are deciding, are we competent? Are we a good person? And care, that internal goodness is more important. That weighs on people more than competence. We spend our lives focusing on hire me, choose me, choose me, choose me based on a resume of skills. And the reality of it is, most people are seeking whether you're a good, honest, trustworthy person first. Are you a good person? And then,
I hear people saying, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. But
but we do.
And I guess we shouldn't, but the fact is we do. Right?
Sure. And in today's words, we use a word called profiling. And although that's a little bit harsh, that is the word that we use today. And the truth is, while people are profiling us, we're profiling others. So in the first facet, I teach both the importance of that first impression visually, and then I teach the introduction, which is part of the grand opening. Because then when we open our mouths, notice when somebody walks in a room and you see them and you think, oh, that's somebody I think I'd like to meet, then the next part of that first facet is, how do you do it? What do you say? And so often what I found with my children is it was very important that I taught them how to introduce themselves and how to do that properly.
Sure.
So that's the first facet, the grand opening. The second facet in the trust-based philosophy then is the facet about building rapport. And rapport is just you ask more questions than you talk. And realistically, people love to hear themselves and tell their stories. And so we just need to be good at asking questions and listening. In fact, I had on my website, there's an interview that I had with Jack Canfield where he interviewed me about the books. And he said that his wife taught him that he could be more successful if he spent more time trying to be interested rather than trying to be interesting. And she wasn't trying to be mean to him,
right.
But that's true.
Yeah.
If we spend more time trying to be interested rather than being interesting, listen more, talk less. My father taught me when I was young, what he tried to impress upon me, the 90-10 rule. You only talk 10% of the time, you listen 90% of the time. There are book after book after book. How to Win Friends and Influence People talks about that. Dale Carnegie taught about that. So that's the second facet, which is the rapport building. The third facet then I teach as I go out and speak is the maintenance stage. That's the simple principle of being a giver rather than a taker. The world loves givers. They love people that are generous, that are kind, that are willing to serve. And we shun, right? We distance ourselves from people that are takers. And so to be more giving, and of course people I often hear the arguments of, yeah, but if I'm a giver, somebody will take. Well, that's true, but from time to time, you're going to run into a taker. But the truth is, David, when you run into those takers, you just don't associate with those people anymore because the world loves givers. So we need to be givers and not takers. Actually, there's a great book on that by Bob Berg and John David Mann called The Go-Giver that I would highly recommend that your audience reads. A wonderful book. And then the fourth facet of the trust-based philosophy then is the apology stage. And the simple principles on the apology stage is we all like to be right. Nobody likes to be wrong, but no matter how you cut it, sometimes we mess up and we make mistakes, we say things wrong, we do things wrong. So the steps of an apology, I teach the steps of an apology, which are recognize you did something wrong, admit to the person that you harmed what you did and how it might make them feel so that you are sympathetic and empathetic to their position. Then you tell them how you will fix that and how you'll not do that again. And then the fourth thing is you just don't do it again, right? That's how you build trust.
Right.
So the apology stage is not really difficult except for the first piece, which is recognizing and admitting that you did something wrong. People struggle with that, that we don't like to admit we're wrong. But so that's really what I teach when I'm hired to come out and speak about the four facets of trust. I don't just talk about the concept of trust, but these four distinct principles of trust, which is how we do it, how we create it, how we maintain it, and how we improve upon it.
Right. So instead of someone paying you to come out and talk to us, you just gave us the shortened version of it for free.
I did.
Thank you.
I did. And you know what? I'm thrilled to do it because that's part of building trust. Is you give it. Now the truth is, there's a whole lot more to each of those four principles. I just gave you the Cliff Notes version. Sure. For each of those, there are dynamic principles of what you do and how you do it.
Right.
And so when companies and organizations, when they hire me to come in, that's what I do then as I teach. What's interesting about that is I end up speaking a lot when it's a company that hires me in to come in and talk about, let's say, trust-based selling. I end up teaching some of these important principles because they're not taught these principles in college.
Right.
They're not taught these principles in high school, right? And many, many people are not taught these principles at home. So they just don't know. They've not experienced that. They know they need to do something better. They just don't know exactly what to do.
Right. So there you have it, everybody. The Cliff Notes version, if you will, of trust-based success. Hey, I've got one question I want to ask you, kind of as a final question.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
we didn't talk about this ahead of time, and maybe I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but what would be the one bit of advice that you would give to our listeners looking for financial wellness or financial success? Is there one thing that jumps off out of your head?
Yeah, that's an easy one.
I thought that would be hard.
No, that's an easy one.
Okay,
let us have it. You spent part of your life, David, as a bankruptcy attorney, and so my financial wellness advice to all of your listeners now and any in the future would be conscious of what you really make, right? Of what your income really is and your expenses, and don't spend more than you make.
Right.
Because it's so easy today. It really is easy to get to money. There's credit. It's just so easily available, and it's just so easy to get into a financial trouble. And the truth is, when you don't have financial wellness, it's difficult to have success in anything. And so, I mean, it affects everything. It affects our health, affects our mindset, it affects our growth. So, it sounds so simple, but it's not simple because it's so easy to get into financial trouble. Focus on good enough habits that you do not spend more than you make, right? Or can afford to spend.
Yeah.
And I don't know I can give any better advice than that.
Good. All right. I think that that's something that Brian and I have talked about, over all of the podcasts that we've done. It's simple. It's not that complicated, but you've got to restate it. You got to think about it. You got to present it in different ways. But that's one of the more powerful things. I mean, we've said here, financial success is a lot like a diet. You make a little more than you spend, and you put the difference, towards what you want in terms of your overall plan, whether that's a house or retirement or give it away or whatever you do. But having a plan, a very deliberate plan. But it's like with dieting. If you expend more calories than you put in, chances are, you're going to be able to deal with health issues. Not always, but for the most part.
Sure.
So, but it's the simple thing. It's the common things that we need to be reminded about, and keep coming back to that. Now, you told me you've got a book out there that's coming out just in the next month. Success-based networking, is that what you said?
Yeah, trust-based networking.
Trust-based networking. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, trust-based networking.
Okay.
Proven ways to stop meeting and start connecting. So it's the newest book. It's actually my 8th book out. It's the 4th book in the Trust-Based Philosophy series. I think it's going to be a good one. My wife she's very honest with me, and she obviously one of my editors. And when she was reading through it, same principle. There are 25 proven ways, just a few pages, and then important questions that you'd fill out that apply to you. And she actually said, Mark, I like all your books, but this is the best of all of them. This is really important stuff. So I appreciate that. And the truth is, all 4 of those topics, leadership, selling, success, and networking, different people would say different things because they need different things. But
right.
Maybe my wife needed the networking concepts more than she needed the leadership concepts. But
right.
I'm grateful that I can keep writing, and I will keep writing. And I'm grateful that these books have been so well received. So that book, it's actually it's slated to come out from the publisher at the end of May, and of course this year, 2019. And it'll be available on my website, markgiven.com. And before the end of the year, actually, all of those books will be available on Amazon, and then we will put them on audiobooks at some point. We have not done that yet. So the audio listeners, I just don't have them. I'm putting the books out faster than I can get all the other work completed. But they will be on audiobooks. They're not on there right now on today, but they will be sometime soon. So,
well, and one of the other books that we haven't even touched on during our conversation, and haven't even talked about, is your book on leadership. I'd love to hear more about that. Maybe at some point we could have you come back to the podcast and talk about success-based leadership.
I'd be thrilled to talk about that.
Yeah.
I actually get hired a lot for organizations and companies to come and speak on. I just did a program in Richmond, Virginia, as a matter of fact, just a few weeks ago with a leadership group for some big association, and they have a yearly leadership training program, and they hired me to come in and speak in the morning on trust-based leadership, proven ways to stop managing and start leading. And that was the third year in a row that they've hired me. I've been speaking on this a long time, although the books, have not been out that long. But
wow.
Anyway,
we got to get you out. We got to get you out to the coast, and we'll hang out and we'll do some traffic. It'd be great.
I love that.
So
I would love it. I actually like LA a lot. I just it's just the way it's worked out this year, the way I've been scheduled. I am in a lot of different places, but I just haven't been scheduled in the LA area.
Right. So what do we take away from this conversation? It seems to me, first and foremost, a fundamental pillar to success is trust. Right? Seems to me. And that secondly, trust takes focus to establish, maintain, and repair. Anything that you'd add to that?
Yeah, I would say good habits.
Okay.
We the reality of building and maintaining trust come from being wise enough to listen to our inner thoughts, because our gut will tell us when we're out of line. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to where we started with the very first of this podcast, which was we can spend a lifetime building trust, and we can destroy trust in just a moment when we're unwise or foolish or selfish. And so I would certainly hope that we get those feelings, those internal feelings, and when we're doing right, when we're doing wrong, we need to listen to those, and that's how we build and maintain trust.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you very much, Mark Given, for spending the time with us today. A well-known keynote speaker, teacher, author, friend. It's really been a gas to be able to spend some time and talk about these topics and set up something maybe in the future.
I'd love that. Thank you, David. You're doing great work.
Hey, thank you. Hey, everybody. This is Dave Hagan, and you've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. If you have a question that you would like Dave to answer on the podcast, go to thefinancialwellnesspodcast.com. You can leave an audio message with one click of a button, or type your message into the question box. Either way, it's sent right to Dave's phone. Remember, Dave will randomly draw from the submitted questions and pick the winner of a free 1-hour personal conversation with Dave to help you achieve your financial goals. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you receive the new episode notifications, or share the podcast via the app with your family and friends. This is your announcer, Nick Appel, wishing you every financial success.